Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mārcis Leja, and I'm from University of Latvia. And this is my great honor to chair this session together with Professor Hsiu-Hsi Chen from Taiwan, from Taipei National University Hospital. And I'm happy that not only him, but it's even a group of specialists from the Institute who has joined him for this meeting. So we are really happy on developing collaboration and exchange of knowledge there. And without further ado, actually I will, before inviting Professor for his presentation, I just wanted to mention a couple of housekeeping issues. Each of the presentation is entitled to be for 18 minutes. And we are not going to take questions immediately after the presentation, but then we are sparing the time for a panel discussion. So keep your questions. You will be definitely invited to ask questions following all the presentations. And now it's my great pleasure to ask Professor Chen to deliver the presentation on really very interesting topic of digital transformation of cancer screening. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for Professor Leja for introductions. And first of all, I still appreciate the PMNET invited me to have these topicals, and also our team. You can see the red one is mine, and the blue one sitting in the room, and all is a team. Screening actually need a team. So today I try to use these topicals to explain how AI can help the personalized cancer screening. So this is online. I will show step by step. So if you look at this slide, we have passed from the rule-based, the evidence-based, always relying on the randomized control trial for primary, secondary, and tertiary from 1970s. But with the advent of the omics data, radio omics data, and also the different kind of the health data, we have moved to the precision medicines, and we have moved to the 4P medicine because of the XAI. And then you can have prevention, you can have a prediction, and then you can have personalized, and you can have participate between client and also physicians. But it's not enough. Time moves very fast. With the advent of IoT and also smart device, the offline mode changed from the online mode in real-time interaction with the patients. So metaverse enabled is a features to create the virtual and also the realities, and that is one of the step, move forward. So today I try to use, because we all use the large language models, how can large language models make the metaverse-enabled cancer screening come true through this step? And I use the breast cancers as a case. So first of all, when we're talking about personalized cancer screening, we should look at the overview of the prevention of the breast cancer, not only in screening, from primary, secondary, and tertiary, from healthy, subclinical, clinical, until relapse or the days, to provide the different level of the preventions associated with different factors, including omics data, including all lifestyle factor, and also the molecular data. So the fourth period, the rule-based principles, if this is based on evidence, when trial demonstrate, you have to know what is the mechanism. People always use the prediction models. So you can look at the Pike model 1983, only based on conventional risk factor, hormone, and the material factor, until 2004, the molecular classification using the HER2, ER, PR, and also the basal-like. And now you can see exosome is the emerging biomarkers. You can see the exosome to affect the normal cells, to instigate the P10 to turn the normal into the tumor cell. And this is the mechanism through the mere RNA, and the exosome become the extracellular visible biomarkers. And all these, how can we use this multi-modal data? And you can still remember that a lot of the preliminary prediction models from the right side is Gale models and left side is genetical models, until you see the finally you can see Antoni model and Taiwan models use that for risk of the breast cancers. Now, because of radiomics, the dual-based imaging biomarkers, Professor Laszlo Tabar from Sweden, I have collaborated with him about 30 years, 3 decades. We learned about actually they have so many types of the imaging biomarker to classify breast tumor into the tumor along from the acinar region, and also the dark region, and also the stem cell. So you see the dark type and also stem cell, only 25%, but kill the women dying from breast cancers, which is very interesting. So you can look at the survivals. It's very, different between across the different the mammograph type. So the BCMO, the bottom line, and also the K16 type is called the doctor type of the neo-dark genesis. It's the killer right now. So the therapies has to be, advanced. You heard this morning the keynote speech until the session earlier. So this is a rule base. I use the imaging biomarker combined with the molecular classification to create the risk profile from very high, very low to very high, and guide the precision therapies. Now, you have to see, because of the AI, so the AI actually already incorporated into our radiomics, particular digital mammography in the cloud. But today, I wanted to say it's not only an AI, it's an explainable AI, which can be easily understood. So you can see the AI, the courtesy from Professor Laszlo Tabar provides so many cases. You can see the current diagnosis, breast cancer. If you look back to the previous mammogram, AI already detected. So this is why AI played a role in reducing the walking load. But this is not enough. We have to use the AI to explain what's going on for the killers. In terms of the multifocal cancers, you can see the survival is always poor. But how can we know? So today the AI help you to link between the radiomics and also the histopathologies. And these pictures tell you how to explain the mechanism. So this is a multifocal, and left side is a histological the sections. And the right side, you can see the upper part, the right upper part, to explain how breast cancer have an angiogenesis, to explain the tumor have made the blood vessel, the vascularizations outside, the acinar. And also you can see how they affect the differentiation and also metastasis. So particular from the stem cell region. So this is actually very important. So if you only rely on the AI on the mammograph, it's not enough. I show you one case, 60-year-old woman, have a strong family history of breast cancer, also prostate cancer histories. So you come to call back to the mammography, the MRO view, and also the CC view. The first time, nothing. Second time, you see, still nothing. Still nothing. And AI cannot help as well. So the third time, the AI and the radiologists at the same time diagnosis. But, you know, the woman finally died from breast cancers. So you never know if we can combine the molecular biomarkers, can we, you know, more early detections. So that's why we argue, because you can see the metastasis in the axillary lymph node, exactly the same as the exosomes. The exosome contains the mere RNA informations, explain the metastasis and also the proliferations. So this is actually very important for our multimodal data, not only rely on the one data. So this is finally patient metastasis, have a metastasis and die from, then finally after treatment, the woman died. So this is a BCMO case and very intractable and very poor survivals from the stem cell. And also, you see, they resistant to chemotherapy and radiotherapies. So you can see exosome inside also related to the drug resistance, which already been investigated. So all the things come up with multimodal data. How can we deal with this multimodal data from left side of the imaging biomarker and the conditional the conditional molecular biomarker and the imaging biomarker, and also the patient record and clinician record pathology report using the natural language process. And if you can do so, our team also moved from the left side. I published in the BJC using the rule-based for multi-state progression model, identify the personal factors affecting each transitions. But now we move to the AI to look at the new pathway, the uncover, explain mechanism. So you can see this is use the convolutional neural network to identify the new subtype of the killer cancers. And also, you can also use the Bayesian network to explain the causal relationship, trying to get the available temporal data, combined with CNN. Then you can do the personalized the cancer prevention, particular in this case is personalized cancer screening. If you look at the left side, you already have this disease trajectory. Then you apply by dividing the population into different risk spectrums. And you can see how early age you can screen and what is the different intervals for different risk group. And also, how do you provide the multiple detection modality, combine ultrasound, combine the MRI, depending on a different risk spectrum and different kind of the explain the AI enabled mechanism. Then you can evaluate any possible combination of the intervention. Then now you need to the large language models. And I show you the one case is a 47-year-old woman, because this is a young woman. So again, the AI can detect and radiology can detect. But so many pathology reports by different multi-detection modalities. How can you use the large language to help you to have the text generations and to communicate with the client? And also including the CRISPR using the ChatGPT, like this woman. Can she need the CRISPR to provide information before gene editing? So they guide you to know the knockout, the epigenetic mechanism, the prime editing or the single base editing. Try to deny by selecting the suitable RNA sequence. Then you can avoid off target. And this is actually very beautiful. So our idea is very simple. So if you can develop this kind of the responsive AI, XAI, so you put all the kind of the intervention together to fit into the large language models, and using following the digital twin evaluation to evaluate which combination intervention will be optimal for these patients, then you can have a conversation with the patients. So this is why the digital twin is a core technology of the metaverse to create a virtual and also reality between patient and also physicians to try to help our shortage of manpowers, and also use the reinforced learnings, to try and back and forth to answer the questions. So don't forget, this is a movie, I like it, Ausvydas. You always can ask your children to see it. The movie actually make your dream come true because they transform from reality to the virtual reality, through these machine learning scanners by using the same digital twin technology. And I'm not the first person to propose. The Nature Machine Learning, the Nature Machine Learning, the journal already proposed the same idea to 2023. So you see, before you receive intervention, you had better have a digital twin copies and also the 3D printers. Then after your intervention, you can know how to evaluate with the personalized interventions. And that's why digital twin is more important. But the thing is, for our screening, for our disease, it's dynamical. So we not only need a digital twin, static digital twin, we need a dynamical digital twin, which is very difficult. That's why your model has considered the time axis, very important. But this is actually, right now, the XAI try to do that. So you can use the same technological and the multimodal data to create the virtual and the twin and compare with your realities and see, your personalized intervention. So finally, the two last slide, you see, when real patients come to see the physicians, then you can always use SAI to build up. Then you can always free choice to have a consultation with the patients by using the XAI to explain what if and what happens if this intervention changes to that interventions. What is the optimum? What is the effectiveness change, and what is optimum interventions? So you need technology. I don't have time, but tell you, our team already developed the digital twins published in the computer journal by applying the concept of augmented reality. After you create a virtual and also the real data, you synthesis between the real data and also the virtual data, then you can use the mixed reality concept to maneuver your intervention strategies. And that is a series of the step. So this is the real step from first, second, and third, and the augmented reality and the mixed reality. And using the left side is the data. And then you can evaluate by following the concept of the mixed realities, then evaluate the personalized screening strategy here we're talking about. So if this can be done, then you see anyone not deviation from the organized screening, but everyone, when you finish the screening, when you do the personalized screening, then you can answer the question, what kind of interventions you select. For this woman, because they have a strong family history, we suggest you can steal tamoxifen for prophylactic use, and you probably need to mammography plus, the MRI. Then you probably need the immunotherapies if they belong to the BCMO, for examples. Then you can answer the question about what is the risk prediction of the death from breast cancer, about 65%. So this is just the numbers for selecting from the digital combinations. But you always done the iterative to see what the result can be changed. So I'm the president of the International Asian Cancer Screening Network. I'm very happy to join the UCAN screening yesterday, and also the PMNET meetings, which I first time, but I'm very, very happy, and I love this your meeting topical. And please come to Taiwan, and this is the data we collect in these communities. I will invite Professor Leja to come to Taiwan next year. And thank you so much for sharing these presentations.
Thank you indeed for this brilliant presentation. And now we are going to the next one, Professor Paolo Giorgi Rossi, on the topic of risk stratification in cancer screening.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mārcis, for the invitation and for the opportunity to talk about risk stratification in screening. This is my disclosure. So the topics that I will treat today: why a risk-based screening, the very basic principle and the rationale, and some example for cervical, colorectal, and breast cancer of something that we already can do, or we are almost ready to do, and some consideration about why a trial is still needed, and a few words about MyPEBS. That is a trial on a personalized breast screening. Okay. The principle, sorry, something happened in the. So the principle of the rationale for risk stratified screening is that the benefits can only be enjoyed by people who already have the disease or will have the disease in the next future, while the harms are usually proportional to the intensity of screening and thus are almost independent from the risk of the population. And so you see that increasing the risk, you have increasing benefits and the same harms. And so the balance is better. So at a given, if you increase the risk, you can have a better balance, or you can have a more intensive intervention, maintaining the same balance between harms and benefits. To do that, you need another condition, that intensifying the screening increase the efficacy of screening. And this is not always true. For example, in a woman from 50 to 69, probably the intervention, the interval between two mammograms of 2 years is optimized for the length, for the natural history of the disease. So you increasing the intensity or decreasing the interval probably only have a marginal impact. So not always this background works, okay, here. But with increasing the risk, we can also have, and this is what you cannot read there, you can also have an increase of the a different natural history of the disease. This is an example that you can imagine for cervical cancer. This is the green line is a woman infected with HPV 52. It takes decades from CN2, CN3 to cancer. And the red line is the natural history of a woman infected with HPV 16. It is obvious that in this case, changing the interval can change the efficacy of screening. So how can we change the screening? We can change the screening, the screening age to start and the age to stop. We can change the interval. We can identify a group for which screening is not beneficial at all at any age. We can combine different tests, for example, adding ultrasound or adding MRI in breast cancer. But we can also change the threshold of positivity. So we can change the management. And this is what we are already doing in HPV screening. According to age and HPV type, we refer to the woman to colposcopy or to 1 year. And so the positivity level is different. So the basic elements are that we have information to classify the risk, to know the risk at the individual level, group the target population, it's not a good word, target, but in different group with a homogeneous risk, and then we couple the groups with intervention that are specific for the group and optimize the efficacy of screening. Screening is a process. This risk stratification can occur before the invitation, after the screening test, in positive, in negative to the positive test to define the next interval, here to define who should be treated or should be followed up, and after the treatment also. There are some very important critical ethical issues in this, because what we are doing now with screening, personalized screening, is trying to have an homogeneous balance. And we this could be an example based on cervical cancer or colorectal cancer. Imagine that this is the number need to treat to prevent a cancer. So we have to, in a high-risk group, we have to treat 3 people, 3 adenomas or 3 CN3, for preventing a cancer. Here 4, here 5. So we have a worse balance here, as defined before. The attempt to re-stratify screening is to have the same balance here. But you see that the absolute numbers of prevented cancer is not equal in all the groups. And so we will have we do less in the low risk. No, we do more in the high risk and less in the low risk. But this guy will have 1 cancer less prevented. So it is important that we agree that the benefits and harms have the same value for all the people. Otherwise, we cannot apply this, because someone will have less. More appropriately, but less. So the example of cervical cancer screening. In Italy, we decide to change the screening for vaccinated women. And the first thing we tried to change was the age to start. And we start now at 25, but the incidence below 30 is very, very low. And more than 70% of cancer are due to 16-18, so we expect even lower. And this is true even more for the younger proportion. So this is the expected incidence after screening, after vaccination in the vaccinated population. So after that, we decided to start screening at 25. We did this decision in 2016. Fortunately, the data from real-world data from Sweden confirmed our decision. In cervical cancer screening, we are also assisting to a re-stratification in women after the screening test. And this is a very famous framework from the US guidelines published in 2020. And you see that for any group of similar risk of CN3, they couple a management. We did the same for the new Italian guidelines, and this is an example of how we manage, we define the best triage strategy for women that are HPV positive according to the genotype and cytology or P16 results. And it is based, again, on the risk of each group and coupling a risk to a management. In colorectal cancer, we have we have several models to stratify the risk, but we have a very powerful predictor of the risk. And this is the presence of hemoglobin below the threshold So negative tests, but there are not zero hemoglobin in the fecal sample. And if you sum the results of the two, the quantity of hemoglobin in the last two samples, you can distinguish groups with more than 20 times the risk. And these are all negative in each single FIT test. Here we are using the stratification after the screening test, the first screening test and the second one. We are trying to apply this principle also in the European Commission initiative guidelines, and for the moment this is an empty sheet, but we will try to use this to guide the guideline, the recommendation. For breast cancer we have a lot of research, and it probably is the most studied case, but also the one where we have less ready-to-use strategies unless the very high-risk woman. So we have this polygenic risk score. I know that in this audience everybody knows what it is. That they are polymorphism that for each single polymorphism the association is very low. But if you group them and you have a distribution of the polymorphism, you can distinguish women that have more than 10 times the risk. And this is for lifetime, but also the risk in a shorter perspective. This risk is on top of the usually considered risk factors of, for example, in the Tyrer-Cuzick model. For example, this is the green one is a Tyrer-Cuzick plus lifestyle, and you see that if you add the blue is the full model, so polygenic risk score plus Tyrer-Cuzick and some lifestyle factors, you have a considerable group of women that has more than 20% risk in their life, while with only Tyrer-Cuzick you'd have almost no women in this group. But also in the very low group you have a lot of women. So you can discriminate, and you can start thinking as an actionable stratification. We have also radiomics. For example, you see the AUSL is about 0.7. It's not too bad, and different models performed exactly in the same way. This is at 5 years that you have about 0.7. Combining radiomics and polygenic risk score, you can reach about 0.78 in the AUSL, in the area under the curve. So what is MyPEPS? MyPEPS is an international trial. We recruited more than 50,000 women and randomized them to the standard screening or to a risk-stratified screening. The risk-stratified screening has four level of risk, plus considering also the density. So the low risk, that we had about 30% of the women, the intermediate risk, another 30% and 40% here, and the very high risk. In the very high risk, we recommend MRI, because this is about this. Okay, it doesn't work. It's about the risk of a woman with a BRCA2 mutation. The low risk is the risk of women, the average risk of women in Europe below the age of 45, for which we never recommend screening at the moment for the general population in Europe. So we say, okay, come back in 4 years. And then we have one intensified and one standard screening here. We do not have the results of MyPEPS for the main outcome, that is the reduction of advanced cancer, but we have the results about anxiety induced by the screening. This is the risk stratified. This is not my PEPs. We have also from my PEPs. And this is from PROCAS, a similar study in England. And you see that women not knowing the risk have exactly the same level of anxiety of women that receive the risk. And what is more interesting is that the level of anxiety is exactly the same across all the risk groups. And maybe it is higher in the moderate group, not in the highest group, for sure. The anxiety is obviously context dependent. And you see in Italy, we have the highest level of anxiety for everything, but in this case, for breast cancer. So the conclusion is that most of the research until now focused on risk stratifying only for identifying group at high risk and providing them with MRI or very intensive screening. But it is obvious that if you find, in the general population, the number of cancer is the same. So if you find more cancer here, there are less cancer in the rest of the woman. So if we are really convinced that any screening has benefits and harms, and we have to balance the two, we have also to look at the other tail of the distribution, and we have to de-intensify screening in people that have lower risk. And this is important not only for the balance, but also for the sustainability of the system. We cannot go only in the direction of intensifying. We must remember that we are caring of healthy people, and the benefits will only be seen by a short proportion of the women, a small proportion of the screened people. Thank you.
Thank you indeed for the presentation. And now we are inviting the next speaker. We are happy to have our neighbors and colleagues here. The next speaker will be Ausvydas Patasius, and his presentation will be related to prostate cancer screening and PRICE-U project.
Thank you, Mārcis. Thank you, board. Thank you, audience, for inviting us, inviting the PRICE-U family to take part in this forum. We are honored. So I do have some responsibilities in Lithuania because we are running a national society, but at the same time we do have some academic duties and of course clinical duties as well. But I would like to talk about the prostate cancer screening. Thank you, the earlier presenter, for the really good introduction about the risk stratification, but it's really complex question, prostate cancer screening, to talk about screening as a secondary prevention for totally non-preventable disease, so the prostate cancer. So we know that we do have enough evidence right now that PSA-based screening and PSA-based screening strategies lowers the risk, reduces the mortality risk from the prostate cancer. Therefore, in 2017, the quite big group of key opinion leaders in European Association of Urology, they issued the big paper, and the paper somehow they reached the European Commission, and European Commission and European Parliament was worried about the prostate cancer, because the prostate cancer now in some countries remains or second or maybe even the first most common cancer localization. Therefore, European Association of Urology widely and strongly supported the so-called evidence of the review for the prostate cancer screening. It's called SAPIA. But somehow we ended up, when the European Commission issued the recommendation that tackles directly Mārcis, and because he's a head of the TOGAS project, and we do have a so-called sister project called PRICE-U. It's a prostate cancer prevention, awareness and screening in European Union. How we ended up here? We know that from those steps, we had quite huge evidence about PSA-based test screening, like opportunistic one on unorganized, and we do know that opportunistic-based screening actually does not reduces the mortality risk from the prostate cancer. Of course, it significantly increases overdiagnosis and overtreatment, and as you can see, the organized PSA-based screening programs, like one of the biggest studies in Europe called AUSL. It's a multi-central randomized controlled trial in Europe, and was from 2001 to 2006, and they just issued the last report from the AUSL. But the team of the AUSL and the European Association of Urology, they tailored the so-called screening 2.0 version. It is risk-based screening with the intervals, with the biopsy indications, of course with some of the tools that might lower the possibility of the overdiagnosis and the overtreatment, because this type of approach and this type of screening algorithm might lower the overdiagnosis, might lower the overtreatment, and of course it might reduce the screening mortality. That's how we ended up in the PRAISE-U family. PRAISE-U family is a huge consortium among the 26 organizations in Europe, and you can find all the information in European Association of Urology page, like sub-page called PRAISE-U. But PRAISE-U mainly is based on the pilot studies and pilot sites. The pilot sites as you can see, there is some pilot sites, 2 sites in Spain, in Galicia and in Manresa. Of course, one in your neighboring country in Vilnius. I'm the PI of this pilot site. One is in the Wrocław, in the Lower Silesia in Poland, and of course one is Ireland in Dublin. Our consortium aims to develop. It's more not real world trial, but it's more like feasibility study in Europe, whether this proposed algorithm is feasible in the real world population or not. So therefore, we are trying to develop and assess feasibility and effectiveness of risk stratified approach to prostate cancer screening. Of course, we need to know the acceptability from the patients and, of course, from the countries and the major stakeholders. And of course, we don't want to have one recipe for all the countries, because we try to fit in the national healthcare structures, because I think every country, even small country, they do have the quite specific healthcare structure. And our pilot sites, we do have totally different goals and aims. But I would like to highlight, because I'm speaking here, I would like to highlight Lithuania. In Lithuania, because we do have ongoing prostate cancer screening programs since 2006, and I will tell you later. Our aim is to focus on the Lithuania pilot is on the PSA-based population screening. We do have some certain risk stratification in place, but we would like to align this, our algorithm, with the PRAISE-U algorithm. And of course, to formalize invitation system, because we do know, I think we are speaking more from public health perspective, because screening starts not from the screening test, because it starts from the identifying the target population and inviting them at least one per one screening round. This is the magic algorithm. Usually you can spot some differences maybe you are using, or some patient pathways in your country, but still though we need to identify the target population. Of course, individual needs to accept, and he needs to be. He needs to be informed about the prostate cancer screening. We are stratifying individuals by the age. So if the PSA, the screening, so-called screening test is positive, I don't like this expression, but still, though screening test positive, we are pushing him to risk stratification. We do have some new things in the algorithm. If you are aged from 60 to 69, PRAISE consortium strongly recommends to stop testing if the PSA concentration is below 1 nanogram per milliliter. So next step is the risk stratification is the responsibility. It really depends on the pilot side, but it's responsibility mainly of urologists to make risk assessment based on whether it's a PSA density or risk calculators. The main risk calculators that we are using is AUSL study calculator. So we are stratifying based on the risk calculator into the risk groups. If the individual is stratified to intermediate or high risk group, we are sending him to MRI, multiparametric MRI, and we do have an aim or like bullseye in the MRI. We are trying to tackle this this bullseye with the biopsy, and if we are able to perform like precision biopsy, we can put patient on a like individual risk-based approach treatment or active surveillance strategy, because currently, based on a lot of studies in the urological society, we know that even some intermediate risk group patient diagnosed with the intermediate or low risk group prostate cancer might be put on the active surveillance, of course, and if we do have the high risk cancer, we are putting him on the active treatment. So far, we are in 5 pilot sites. We are inviting the patients. We are running the patients through this algorithm. It's not a complex algorithm, but it needs to create some SOPs, standard operating procedures. And of course, besides that, we do have some working packages as other projects do. We are trying not only to create the algorithm and to tailor this algorithm that might be applicable for some biggest proportion of the countries. We made huge work on the KPIs, key performance indicators for the prostate cancer screening, because I think only in a few countries there was some initiatives to tailor the key performance indicator, and those key performance indicators really necessary for the quality assurance. It's one of the quality assurance tools that normally every screening program should have implemented. About the PRAISE, about your neighboring country, Lithuania, we are kind of unique. Since 2005, it was quite an anecdotal situation in 2005, and it happened that since 2006, we have started nationwide prostate cancer screening program. It was mainly based on the PSA, but thank you for the AUSL researchers. They have guided us to tailor this program like to individual risk approach. So since 2006 we have made annual PSA testing. Then since 2009 we made biennial testing. Then in 2017 we adopted we shrinked the target population. Then we adopted PSA concentration and the screening intervals. The screening intervals based on the PSA concentration. So if you do have low PSA concentration, you might be invited only in 5 years, not for the biennial screen. And of course, it is not in the algorithm, but MRI somehow appeared next to our algorithm. But as you saw earlier, right now, multiparametric MRI is a part of the integrative part of the prostate cancer screening algorithm within the PRAISE and even within some countries. Some natural history about Lithuanian scenario. So we have adopted in the clinical use only in 2000 the first use of the PSA. We made some calculations. It was already we can notice this. It was detectable on the incidence graphs. In 2006, we have implemented PSA-based annual screening program. In 2009, we have adopted biennial. Then we saw that our incidence rate was the highest even in the whole world. So in 2017, we have adopted the age-adjusted and low PSA cutoffs, and restricted the target population. But since 2023, we joined the PraisU family. We really enjoyed this cooperation because it is like everyday practice and everyday use for tailoring our prostate cancer program, and it's quite new. In 2025, we have pitched with our Ministry of Health that we might adopt this algorithm and to be the first country that is adopting the individual risk-based algorithm, not the PSA-based that is not decreasing mortality, but individual risk-based algorithm in line with the MRI. Also, we do have a center of the registries, so-called center of the registries. It's a main owner of all data in Lithuania, but currently they are creating so-called Lithuanian subsystem of the screening programs, and first screening programs that need to be digitalized. It's prostate cancer and the cardiovascular risk program. So, and of course, it appeared the question. What kind of algorithm do we need to digitalize? Whether it's the like old one that is currently written in the Ministry of Health documents, or we need to adopt the PraisU algorithm. Of course, we are trying to see it forward. Therefore, we have offered like two parallel processes, two-way processes. So the center of the registries, they are responsible for the digitalization, but our national society, we are responsible for the changing all the documents. Even today, I was sitting here and I was writing some that this screening program is dedicated for the patient who is injured, etc., or for the individual who has a prostate, etc. So we need to prepare about the 25 new documents, renew the documents, and of course, Ministry of Health need to evaluate cost effectiveness of this program. We do have some parallel things ongoing. We do have like sisterhood and neighborhood. Do we have something to offer for the Baltic countries? Of course, because this paper is written not because make Mārcis happy, because it was by me and Mārcis. I would like to show you that our three Baltic sisters, they do have like quite different PSA strategies, and this is observable in the incidence graphs. But as you can see, the mortality risk, the mortality level rate it's not differs so much. So I think currently Latvia is not diagnosing a lot. That means, okay, you do have you don't have the overdiagnosis, but still though I think you do have some advanced disease in your country. PraisU is really open for the collaborators, and the collaborators might ask us and to approach, because we might offer to provide a really good and fast help, and to provide so-called PraisU package for if you would like to join the PraisU family and to start your own pilot in your country. Please just ask any person from the PraisU, and you will be guided. You will get the protocol for implementation, informed consent, patient information sheet, videos, and KPIs, and full code book. And as you can see, the PraisU family currently is, with the help of the PraisU and the You Can Screen, it is making wider and wider. So please be brave. Join us and try to tailor individual risk-based approach to the prostate cancer screening. For the summary, I can say if you would like to build patient-centered healthcare based on the screening, you need to have, of course, government support, money, high-quality public services, but you do need a high level of evidence, of course, from the screening, randomized control trials, from the national trials, from the PraisU, from EU, but you really need to have a strong community of professionals. That means the key opinion leaders, national societies, and all other organizations that might help to tailor this and to build patient-centered healthcare based on the screening. So thank you very much, and please be prepared for the screening.
Thank you. We are happy to invite next speakers who is the engagement manager, genome research and the precision medicine from IQVIA in Paris, France. Let's welcome Audrey Coiffic. Thank you.
Hello, thank you very much first for inviting me to speak in this very interesting forum. I will talk about scaling genomic programs in Europe, and so unfortunately it's not about cancer, so I'm sorry about that. So we will talk about other type of screening, and actually the important role of biobanks and large genomic program to implement those screening tests. This is a disclaimer. So I'm sorry I arrived at the end of the session, but I wanted to just recapitulate the different type of screening tests that exist. And the first thing is that they can be done at different ages. It can even be done before birth with preconception or carrier screening, when a couple want to know if they have higher risk for some population where consanguinity, for example, will add risk for the fetus. And you can do it at the level of pre-implantation, so during IVF process, for example. So you just select the embryos that are low risk if you know that yourself you have some risk. And it can be done at prenatal stage on fetus. It's probably one of the most known genetic tests done on pregnant women. And you can do it, of course, on newborn. And we didn't wait for whole genome sequencing to do newborn screening, because it has been for a long time also done at metabolic, hormonal, and functional disorder screen at birth. And then you have basically two types of screening tests for, as we have seen, predictive and pre-symptomatic testing for cancer, for example, or for hereditary disease. And you can also do it for application like pharmacogenomic, that I will mention a bit more in this presentation, which is basically to identify the variant that will affect your reaction as a patient to some drug that are known to be metabolized differently based on your genetic background. So now if we go back a little bit on what you need to define a genetic screening test, you actually need biomarkers. And so what do you do to end up with biomarkers that you can implement in your national program or in clinics? It all starts with large data sets, and data sets come from samples, so you also need biobanks. So I will not go into all the detail of this crowded slide, but basically you need to first collect data. And as I said, you need biobanks, and an efficient biobank is ideally linked to clinical records, genomic sequencing, and phenotypic data. All the data that you can link, the more data you have, the more source of data, the more diversity you have in your population, the more insight you will get for your future research project or clinical applications. Then you obviously need to check the data. So you need quality control step and data processing using different bioinformatic tools and pipelines. You will then, as soon as you know that your samples were good quality, you have good quality data, and they are standardized, you can then do statistical and computational analysis. And then you will end up with probably some biomarker candidates. And so it can be a SNP, can be gene expression signature, it can be hormonal level, can be imaging specific patterns, and you can apply many different technologies on this. And then you need to replicate all of this in different cohorts and different studies so that you're actually sure that your biomarker is really linked to something clinically relevant to your patient. Then you have the phase of the test development, because if it stays in your hospital, that's great for your population, but it's even better if you can basically spread it to the world at a low cost so that it can actually benefit the whole population. If it's specific to a population, it's different. Then you have to, of course, show the clinical validation via clinical trials that we already mentioned, and go through all the nice regulatory process to actually get your test validated by different authorities, get all the marking, and get regulatory approval. And then comes, and actually you start way before this step, the negotiation for implementation and reimbursement at national level or whatever is your perimeter. And once again, you then use biobanks and infrastructure to, and also, and I will repeat this message, use public-private partnership for scale-up. So if we take again, I'm sorry, I'm going backward. If we look at the trends in genomic national health strategies, I will go fast, but basically we see a shift from reactive care to proactive screening and prevention with new technology use like whole genome sequencing, usage, as we have seen before, of polygenic risk scores and implication in pharmacogenomics. We often mention the UK as one of the leaders in this, with this famous newborn genome sequencing program at the moment, and the fact that everything is actually integrated from like the biobank. They use healthcare system and clinical usage. So if we the thing is that if you want to have large data sets to define biomarkers, you usually start with something like a national initiatives. And so my company just published an update of a previous white paper on a global landscape of genomic initiatives. And so the first one was done in 2020, and now it's an update from last week, so this year. And so the general message is like, we all know this curve saying like, oh, the sequencing cost is going down, and then it helps with programs. But the thing is that it actually continues to be the case. So it really helps with implementation of new programs. And we can see at the global level is here the number of and proportion of initiatives that are actually linked to public-private partnership or not. So the public-private partnership are in green. And if you compare to 2020, which I cannot show here, it's really significantly more the case now than before, even if it's just 5 years. And it's significantly more present in Europe. Even if, I think it's the next slide, Northern America is still starts the majority of the program. If you look at the growth of the number of initiatives that have been launched since 5 years, there is a kind of growth of 22, no, not a growth, 22 more initiatives in Asia, for example. So the growth is higher in the areas where it was less the case before. And it's very important because we can see more, it means that now genomic information will be available for a population that were before not present in the data set. Means new biomarker, more specific to population, and better diagnostic in the end. And last information about this is that analysis is that as I said before, what is important is to link genomic data and clinical data. So here is a proportion of the initiatives that actually link the EMR data with genomic sequences. And here you have a growth of 14% since 2025, so it's going in the right direction, even if, to my opinion, only 25% or 24% is still quite low, because this is a key information to make use of those data. I just put here some of the key initiatives, and you can see again in green the one that are funded by, that are public-private partnership and funded in both ways. I will just focus on one use case, which is not Europe, but it's interesting because it started with a biobank and finishes with concrete product and screening tests that they can share in their population. And it's about the Qatar Genome program. So here it's a global view of what it takes. So basically you all understand at this point of the meeting, it takes a village to create a genome program. And every stakeholder in the healthcare system and more are involved with healthcare providers, community, meaning the population, the researcher, academia, industry in this case, at the beginning to provide sequencers and all the technical stuff that you cannot reinvent each time you do a project, and at the end to produce the final product. Education, they spend a lot of time and money on education, not only of the healthcare professional, but also the population, the students, and the teacher who teach the students and medical professionals. Also involving, of course, funding agencies at national and international level, and the governments with Ministry of Public Health, in this case, and Ministry of Education, and many international organizations, including the one involved in standards like GA4GH or BPMRI-ERIC that are more linked to the biobanking system, and more local ones as well. So it all started with a biobank. So they wanted to create a genome program to basically integrate the Qatari and expatriate Arabic community who has specific genetic parameters, like, for example, they have a high consanguinity rate and specific variant like any specific population. That is also very underrepresented in the genomic databases. And they didn't want to start from scratch to save some money, so they used the existing Qatar Biobank for medical research to analyze and do some whole genome sequencing on and deep phenotyping on healthy population. And so they knew that this database is linked to clinical records of participants. So they then did multi-omic approach on this, so not only full genome analysis, but all the omics you can do, not on all the 40,000 participants, but like 20% for the moment. And they also leverage the project based on their existing centralized healthcare system and state-of-the-art infrastructure. And all, for information, the Qatar Biobank and the Qatar Genome Project are now called QPHI because they merged, and it's the Qatar Precision Health Institute. So they launched many programs for screening, including cancer screening, but here I'm focusing on 2 pharmacogenomics pilots, where basically they launched 2 pilots on statin and clopidogrel that are known and have specific genetic variation in their population. For the statin they launched a preemptive study on the biobank cohort to identify the population at risk of adverse effects of medication, and with the goal to refer them to the right clinic and deliver the right treatment. And for the other one, it was more a kind of development of rapid point-of-care reactive testing to be able to adapt the treatment in case of genetic background that would not be okay. And it's actually also linked back to the EMR system. So it's kind of a feeding loop. And what is interesting in this project is that it started with the project of having a kind of a reference genome for Qatar and Arabic region, and it ends up with 3 cheap array to actually spread across the region at low cost the screening that are specific to the population of interest. And so they spend the money to analyze the database and to provide screening tests specific to their population, and then they spread it across the region, even in a region where they cannot do full genome sequencing, and now they just have like microarray that they can use quickly for pharmacogenomic, but also for genomic analysis. So in conclusion, in 8 seconds, I think I will give the same message as the previous speakers. Like, we know that the technology will evolve, AI will come, and new technologies, new sequencing, low-cost sequencing will be available. And we need to take this occasion to improve access to those tests also in very, very diverse ethnicities as well. And we also know that major challenges are coming and are actually there, with major budget cuts and reorganization at global health level. And I think the conclusion is that there is a pressing need for public-private partnership, and I think we are at the good place here. And we'll encourage all of you to partner to spread better low-cost screening tests. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Which applied to the screening, and the precision medicine. And I appreciate your PPV enterprise model, which is so, I suppose, very important for the global trend using the genetic testing in the futures. Thank you so much. Yeah, we are waiting for discussion.
And now we would invite all the speakers to the stage. We are left with 15 extra minutes. And please prepare your questions to the speakers or for discussion to the panelists. Are there any questions from the room? I do not see at the moment one, but we can start. And actually, I was very much impressed by, Tony, your presentation on the topic. And you mentioned also large language models. And actually, this has been a lot discussed also within UCAN Screen project, how large language models could be used to educate the population on different screening-related aspects. And the problem that we have touched upon, and since those are still commercial tools, what information and how to feed in the right information to those data platforms, because of course they will supply you with the data that they can identify, and if the data what they are identifying are not really updated, in this case we might be running really in problems with this.
Yes, this is very good questions. But very honest with you, before I come to these meetings, I'm still, not very convinced of using a large language model to help the screening. But yesterday, I heard the informed consent about the individualized screening, personalized screening introduced for societies. Yeah, I truly think, the large language model could be one of the means to solve the IRB problem in the futures for personalized disease screening. I know this is a big issue of the ethical and also a IRB issue. We talk in Asian as well. The reason I propose the large language model is because I keep receiving a lot of experts, a lot of our screening people to ask about hallucination problem, particularly for the screening, health literacy in the screening. So I think if we can simply to incorporate the updated and the state of art of the model we already use and turn into the text generations, and we could be very closer to the people for enhance health literacy in screening, also health education, and also to avoid hallucinations. So this is the most relevant. The technology, I think, we need to have a discussion, but for large language model, I think is very promising. And also, if you also include the digital twin, you see, because the personalized screen, the models in the future, you need evaluation. How can you be sure the result of the personalized prevention or personalized screening, in addition to validation from genome until the environmental factor, lifestyle factor. So I know I'm very ambitious to propose these three evolutions, but we have to look the future for next generation. I think this is my additional comment. Yeah.
Thank you. And actually, since you touched informed consent, and Paolo also was mentioning ethics aspects as a very important part. So the question is whether this is really a benefit or a risk for a screening program, because normally we are offering the screening possibility to everybody, but in the case if we are requesting the informed consent or signed consent, in this case this might result in decreased participation. If we need to ask for a consent for the next stage investigation, so that would be another problem. So maybe all of you could comment from your perspective, because I think it's important for any types of screening, and in particular in the case if omics data are being used for this purpose.
Yes, I think the problem is different according to the different kind of information that we are going to use for stratifying. For example, in the case of using the vaccine status for HPV, in most countries, there are issues also in this for using this information, but in most countries, it's not an ethical problem, but it's more a technical problem. You have to just to produce a lot of paperwork to demonstrate that you are doing everything correctly. But I didn't see any big issue in saying, okay, you have to have the consent for linking two actions that are proposed by the same health system. Obviously, if you are using PSR, it's different. It's something that you really need the consensus. I don't want to say that you don't need the consensus, but you have to be aware of all the counter sides. Yes, for sure. The one problem is that if you put all the consent, you can decrease participation. But I think that you can always have the standard screening, not personalized screening, as an option in the near future. But this is also problematic, because if you opt out of the screening, of the personalized screening, only after you know your risk, and you opt out preferentially, as we are observing in the trial, if you are in the low risk group, it's because of a phenomenon of health consumerism. So you want more. You don't want to renounce to an extra mammography, even if you have a low risk. Okay, this become very difficult to evaluate, because if this is the principle, everybody can ask for an MRI after the assessment, and how we can say, okay, you are not in the appropriate clinical condition for receiving an MRI. Why this is true for clinicians, for the diagnosis and not for screening? I think all the privacy regulation and the ethics are not yet mature enough to afford the discussion.
Okay, thank you. So it would be informed consent for the personalized screening, and maybe without informed consent for standard population based. So would you like also to comment and maybe as well to the last presenter in particular, because I think this opt-out versus opt-in have been intensively discussed, in particular for genetic testing in Europe and when the legislation has been developed.
Okay, I can start with the prostate because it's a really preventable. It's really prevalent disease. We know that about 60-65% of the older men population they do have. So we need to have the solid evidence that translational part is really necessary, especially when providing sufficient information and getting consent. We do have some not experiments, but with our pilots, we do have some pre-consent information that you are providing just before inviting the patient to participate. Because usually he does not agree to sign when he faces a lot of information during the visit. But so usually some of the countries they're using so-called, even the Finland, they're using so-called pre-consent. They are sending pre-information that you can know better just before your visit. So I think the pre-consent concept is really acceptable for the standard type of screening programs.
Yeah. Then on my point of view is that all patients should have an informed consent on every test they do, whatever it is, whatever the situation. And I think one of the previous speakers was also saying that I think we don't speak enough about the patient point of view. They should be involved much more, and we should ask this kind of question also to patient advocacy group, for example. Not really present in this discussion. And for genomic level, there are, as you said, some opt-in, opt-out discussion, different level of different models have been tested. And in some project, you're by default, you opt in and you have to proactively go and check the box saying, no, finally, I don't want you to use my data. Maybe you're not even aware that there is this opt-out option. So I'm personally favorable to have everybody being aware of everything what it is possible. I think then in Europe, we have to think globally. We have two things, GDPR aside, that say, okay, you need to have access and give access to all the minimum information possible for everybody and about you. And in the same time, then we have the EHDS program coming. Genomic data is out for the moment, but for the rest, we need to keep in mind this question of consent, that if in the end data will be reused for research, it has to be written in a consent from the very beginning of every project, because we will have to share private and public entities. So, that's my point of view.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from the audience? Actually, I have another one to Ausvydas as well. Because you really clearly described the approach price you has been taken, but I think the previous experience in Lithuania and even more in some other countries like Poland is really extensive opportunistic prostate cancer screening. And to change it to organized usually or frequently might really not be very successful. So, as I understand, also the PRICE-U pilot in Poland was resulting in 4% response rate, something like this. So how to deal with this? How to, because many countries really have opportunistic screening and GPs are doing this, and now you want to introduce something new and yeah.
I think it's not new. We're trying to reshape the approach, and yeah, Lithuania is heavily pre-screened population. Poland, it's really pre-screened with the opportunistic screening. So, but first of all, if we would like to evaluate, you need to measure. If you need to measure, you need to have at least some kind of tools or numbers. So first of all, let's try to digitalize all the possibility to get all the information. For example, like Netherlands, they're able to get all of the PSA tests. I think the PRICE-U Plus will answer this question, how the participation rate might vary by the rate of the opportunistic screening, because we will tackle this question, but I think we need to, first of all, with the solid evidence, we need to approach and the GPs and the healthcare providers and the major stakeholders that they're organizing programs. I think you need to educate not only the patient, but the healthcare providers, even the stakeholders as well. So the changing strategy, but still though, the strong organizations, solid evidence, and try to be as more open to discuss all the harms and benefits with all of the type of healthcare providers and stakeholders.
Okay, thanks. So no questions from the audience? Any issues the panelists would like to raise?
I just have additional comment about the participation rate. In Asian countries, they love to use the integrated screening because, like the gene testing, you just do from cradle to grave, So, for all the persons you need, rather than only one single disease or the cancers. So sometimes, particular with the technology help, you can have a multiple approach to invite the people, to enhance. And one of them, I think, if you combine all the a disease into integrated screening in the settings, maybe it's one of the useful to increase participation rate. But I just want to address another point is, if the country already have very good opportunistic screening, maybe it has a high chance of doing the personalized screening, because our countries already have organized population-based screening. So it's very difficult to change the universal, to the personalized. Why? Because the informed consent for personalized is very difficult. It's not like universals. So people don't understand risk stratifications. What is a low risk? So Paolo just say we focus on high risk, but sometimes we neglect the overdiagnosis, the low risk problem. But people receive the message from mass media, so they sometimes have a wrong message. That's why we need to think about how to use these state-of-art technical, to enhance their health literacy in this, in order to not to be affected by the some of the not correct evidence-based message. So I think this is two additional points. I know, because I participated in the IRCCS from the 2005 with the Finland, and also the Netherlands. So I understand post-cancer is also very important for Asian countries.
Small comment. I do agree that participation in opportunistic screening, it is still participation, but I think communication is the key. You need to change the mindset. And because they already accepted and they already not informed, but they written in their head that yes, I am doing the in opportunistic way already accepted to be screened by myself. So we need to communicate differently and providing more solid data.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that still here we are having a difference between Asia and European countries, because as to my knowledge, the screening in Asia is mainly organized on a regional basis and on opportunistic basis, and in Europe we still try to invite personally, and that is considered as organized. But the uptake rate, the participation rate in Asia has been really incredible high to my knowledge in many areas.
Yes, from the European point of view, and we start screening it with inviting usually, not for prostate. Okay. And so we care the information of what we know that is the target, what we define it as a target population. Not a good word, but let's use it. And we just ignore the how to communicate in the rest of the population. This is what happened in the prostate cancer screening. We did not care the communication of what we are not doing. I have no solution, but this is the problem, and I think that if we want really to shift from a paternalistic approach to really an empowerment, we have to look at both the parts of the communication for what we are doing and what we are not doing. And especially, it is much more difficult to communicate what we are not going to do, because there is an issue of resources. We are, at least in public screening in Europe, we are deciding how to use the public resources. And this is not neutral. It's never neutral. And we have to explain that something is not offered and why. And that's why it's very difficult to combine an approach that is social value based and individual value based in the personalized screening. It's very difficult to combine the two. I have no solutions, but for sure we have to care also the communication to who we are not inviting anymore, or we are going not to invite.
Maybe those should be the topics for the next year forum. Any other issues from the audience, from the panelists? If not, then I would suggest that we thank once more the speakers, and we are closing then the meeting.